They went their way with the armies north past the mountains, and they did not stop until they reached the place called Gronsport. And there they met King Thidrerik of Bern and his army on the other side of the river. The Amlungs set up their camp on the southern bank of the river, and the Huns on the northern side. And so each army remained for that night. And during this night, Master Hildibrand kept watch over the camp for King Thidrerik of Bern. And when all of the men were asleep, Hildibrand rode secretly and alone down along the river until he found a ford, and then he rode across the river. Before he noticed it, a man was riding toward him, and it was so dark that neither saw the other until they rode up to each other. Hildibrand spoke. "Who are you, knight, that you act so unseemingly and ride so fiercely?" Reinald answered, "I have no need to tell you my name unless I want to, because you are riding alone just as I am. I also do not need to ask you for your name, because I recognize you, even though we have not seen each other for 20 years. You are Master Hildibrand, the vassal of King Thidrerik." Hildibrand answered, "You speak the truth. I am indeed Hildibrand, the best friend of King Thidrerik. I do not wish to hide it from you, nor from any man in the world, that I am his friend, and you are certainly welcome, my dear friend Reinald. Tell me the news about your army." And Reinald answered, "The first news to be told is that the leader of King Erminrek's army is Vidga, your good friend. The second is Sifka, your great enemy. And I can also tell you that I rode off secretly from our camp, so that all will think that I am sleeping in my bed. I would have ridden to meet with King Thidrerik to tell him the news, if I had not met you. I would wish him certainly well, and even though I have to provide my men, I will not hide anything from Thidrerik that he wants to know about our army." They now rode together up along the river and talked. The stars came out, and it became light enough to see over both armies. Hildibrand spoke. "Where is Sifka's troop and his camp? He is our greatest enemy. I would gladly do him some harm, if you will not prevent it." And Reinald responded, "You can see one golden tent with 3 large gold knobs on the poles. You will easily recognize the tent. It belongs to King Erminrek. Sifka is laying in it, and even though I do not forbid you, you will not be able to do him any harm at this time, because there's a large troop laying around him." And Hildibrand spoke. "Where is Vidga, our dear friend, with his troop?" and Reinald answered. You can see a green tent with a large silver knob on the pole. Vidka is asleep in that tent with a large body of Amlungs, and they have vowed that tomorrow they will break many helmets that will be worn by the Huns, and they will accomplish that. Hildibrand spoke. Who owns the black tent? And Reinald answered. This is my tent, and my men are asleep in it. So Hildibrand spoke. You have done well to tell me the layout of your camp. Now you shall go up the river in the other direction to where our tents stand, and I shall tell you how we have laid out our camp. And they did so. When they rowed up along the river, 5 men rowed toward them. They were Amlungs from Sifka's troop and his guardsmen. The 5 rowed along boldly at them, and they thought that they must be Huns spying on their army. They drew their swords and intended to kill them. Hildibrand drew his sword boldly and rode toward them. Reinald spoke and bade them not to ride so hard. This man is accompanying me, and he is one of my men. They thought they could recognize that this was Master Hildibrand, and they struck at him and struck the cloth hood over his helmet and cut it, but the sword did not bite on the helmet. Hildibrand struck at one of them at his neck, and his head went off, and he fell dead from his horse. This is how they parted, because Reinald did not want them to fight any longer. Reinald and Hildibrand rode as they had intended, and the guardsmen rode their way. Hildibrand and his companion reached the riverbank opposite the army, and Hildibrand spoke. There you can see a tent with 5 poles and a gold knob on each. That is easy to recognize as the tent of King Didrik. You can see a red tent to the right side with red silk. It has 9 poles and 9 gold knobs. That is King Attila's tent. The sons of Attila and Prince Theta, the brother of King Didrik, are in there. Theta wishes to avenge the dishonor done him. And he continued. On the left side of King Didrik, you can see a green tent. That is Markgraf Rodinger's tent. And he is here to give aid to Theta and to King Didrik. Now I have told you how our tents are arranged. Sifka should hear that King Didrik would most like to bear his banner against him. He should find this out. Reinald spoke. Sifka already intends to fight against King Didrik, and I shall have my standard carried against Markgraf Rodinger. The Huns follow him. They are not our friends. our friend Vidga and his troop will fight with Prince Theta and the sons of King Attila. He is rather reluctant to fight Theta because of his brother, King Thidrekssaga, but it must be. Each kissed the other, and they parted, wishing each other well. Hildibrand rode back across the ford he had used before and returned to his tent, and Reinald returned to his tent. And when he arrived at his tent, Sifka was there with many men prepared to fight. He had heard about Hildibrand's expedition and wished to ride after him and kill him. Reinald spoke to Sifka. If you wish to ride after Hildibrand and kill my good friend with your troop, then I shall in a very short time gather a troop no smaller than yours, and you will have to fight with me before you fight with him. I expect that before you get near Hildibrand, you will lose many men, and it is more likely that he will have gone his way, whether you ride after him or not. Sifka answered, You, Reinald, do you wish to become the enemy of King Erminrek, who made me the commander of his expedition and protect our enemies? And Reinald answered, I do not wish to become the enemy of King Erminrek, but rather I will give you support in the battle, even though I will be fighting against our friends and kinsmen. But I cannot allow you to go and kill Hildibrand while he is riding away alone. It may turn out that you will get an excellent chance to meet Hildibrand when he comes with his men. I will not prevent anyone from riding against him, and it may well be that he will defend himself. And after these words, Sifka and his men did not ride after Hildibrand. Hildibrand rode back to the camp of King Thidrek and arrived at dawn. He told Thidrek everything he had found out that night. And the king said that he had fared bravely as always. The good master Hildibrand and his old friend Reinald met and parted with honor just before the battle, as it was custom back in heathen times. So tune in again next time for the episode 63 here in the Hall of Sagenheim, when the battle will begin.